Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. One of the things that I see in senior living that represents a great opportunity is just new and better ways to do things. And it really means two things in my mind. It means new programs and services that will serve other people, more people. And it also means other opportunities to generate revenue, because when you generate revenue, you can serve people, more people, and you can serve people better. So sort of knowing a little bit about CCRCs at home for a long time, but really never found an expert until I was at Leading Age. Then where were we, in Chicago? Chicago, right? And we got to, and Cecily is running one of the great CCRC at home programs. And so I invited her on the show. So we're going to get to that conversation in just a minute. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Man, I'm watching you take a sip of coffee while you were off. You weren't on air, but I'm thinking I should have sent you a Senior Living Foresight coffee cup so you could be branding it as well. I have to remedy that. Before we get started on our conversation, I just want to mention that Foresight TV is brought to you and sponsored by KARE. They are the single best way for you to fill in the empty staffing slots that you have, that you just don't have people, and that you traditionally would go out to an agency and hire people. And, you know, I know what happens every time you have to go to an agency and you bring somebody in and you have this conversation and they say, well, it's going to be $900 an hour for this person. And you just, well, maybe not that bad. And you just cringe at it, right? I mean, it's terrible, right? And you really have no choice. Well, that's the way it used to be. Today you have a choice. You can go to KARE. It's an app-based sort of thing about it. It's like Uber or Lyft for team members. They will send you great people. Yep, they're more expensive than your own people probably, but just a little bit more expensive. And of course, the other thing is if you get somebody who comes in and you fall in love with them and they fall in love with you, and you want to hire them, you can do that without having to pay an arm and a leg. In fact, you don't even have to pay a little pinky finger, because it's completely free. You just say, I want to hire them. They say, I want to go to work for you. And KARE is delighted. So if you're struggling with staff, talk to the folks at KARE. They will make your life easier, better, more wonderful, and the life of your residents better, and they will save you money. So, Cecily, thank you so much for being here. I want to start by just having you talk a little bit about your CCRC program, how it got started, where you're located, and the number of people you serve, and all that stuff.
Sure. Well, Steve, thank you so much for having me on today. And it's actually kind of nice because it's snowing right outside my office here, so it's a very delightful that I am able to be here at home and talking to you. My name is Cecily Laidman, and I am the executive director of a member program called Spring Point Choice, which is one of the first continuing care at home programs in the country. We started back in 1998. We're celebrating, or did last year, celebrating our 25th anniversary. And we currently have about 320 members in the state of New Jersey, and the state of Delaware is where we cover. We cover the entire states of New Jersey and Delaware. It's a unique program, even though it's old now, because a lot of people may be aware of it, but aren't aware of the what exactly it does. We are not a home care agency. I kind of kiddingly refer to it sometimes as long-term care insurance on steroids, because it is a program that targets those individuals that really don't want to go into a retirement community. And you've been in the senior living industry long enough, Steve, to realize that not everybody wants to go to a senior living community, as wonderful as they are. And I worked in one of the best ones in the country. But, some people really want to remain at home for the rest of their lives or as long as possible. And that's what this program provides.
So let's say I want to understand it from a consumer perspective. So I'm old enough, I think,
Yes.
almost
55.
69. So I'm old enough to qualify. What would it look like if I were to sign up for this? How does it work? What are the benefits? What does it cost me?
Okay. It financially, it's similar to going into a CCRC or a life plan community, because you have an upfront. What's the entry fee in a community is a membership fee for our program, and then there is a monthly fee, and all of that starts immediately. The first part of this whole situation is the fact that the people that are joining this program are independent, totally independent. Again, it's not a home care agency. It's for people who are healthy, have all of their activities of daily living that they can do, and historically are much younger than anyone moving into even independent living into a continuing care or life plan community. Our program takes people 55 and older. There are different contracts. If you want the 100% contract, 100% coverage for the rest of your life, this is a lifetime program. You would be paying, depending on your age, anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 upfront fee. That's also 100% tax deductible because it's considered a prepaid medical expense, which is pretty cool. That's why we get a lot of claims end of the year. And then you pay a monthly fee, and that monthly fee can be, let's say, I'm going to say an average of $500. It could be lower, it could be higher. A lot of it, again, depends on the contract or your age as well. And for that, what you get from day one is a care navigator. All of the care navigators that work for SpringPoint Choice are social workers, have been in the industry, and I'm very fortunate to have incredible people that work with SpringPoint Choice. And they're kind of like the son or daughter that is not dysfunctional they get along with. They are with you from day one. Get to know the individual. Find out what their likes and dislikes are. Maybe they're vegetarian. Maybe they have a dog. Maybe they have kids outside of the country. They get to learn about these individuals. So if and when they need services, we can customize that service. We have to make sure that we have a caregiver that comes into the home that's not allergic to dogs because they have a dog, or somebody that's familiar with vegetarian cooking. So, things of that nature. And you are able to get services with only being compromised in one of your activities of daily living, contrary to what long-term care insurance usually is, 2 or 3 before you qualify. And you can receive those services right away. It's anything from a temporary service, which, let's say you have the notorious hip replacement or something like that. You go home, you need a little help around the house, a few hours a day, a couple days a week. That's all covered. All that is covered. God forbid you have a life-changing event and you even need a live-in. That is also covered in this program. I'm talking about the 100%.
Right.
And if you're not safe in your home, then also included in this program, this is where it gets really kind of cool. You could go into assisted living or skilled nursing. Right now, all of our SpringPoint communities, we have 8 communities, by the way, 7 in New Jersey and 1 in Delaware. We have life plan communities. Any of our members could then transition into assisted living or into skilled nursing. And they're still paying their $500 a month, their monthly fee. So I've always told our members, anybody that joins, if ever you end up in skilled nursing, don't tell the guy in the room next to you that you're paying $500 because he's paying $14,000. He's going to be really upset.
That's right.
So that's the encapsulated kind of explanation of it.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
are you also essentially a Medicare Advantage program? So do you take responsibility? So I still would do my own Medicare and healthcare outside.
This is
Uh,
this is strictly custodial care, not
okay.
medical, not
Okay.
medical, all
Okay.
custodial care.
Okay.
Good
And
question.
so and what about things like recreation? I mean, so typically if I'm moving into a brick and mortar CCRC, there's a big part of it is sort of lifestyle stuff.
Right.
So is there any of that that's included as well?
Actually, all of our members can take advantage of all of the activities at the sponsoring community on any of our Spring Point communities. We have members that go there, they've dropped their membership to their, for their local gym, and they're going into one of our communities. We don't have a lot of that because most of the people that are signing up for our program are independent and they're traveling, they're doing things, but they can take advantage, they can have lunch, they can take advantage of any of the programs that go on. And we also have a Live Well program in Spring Point. So our goal is the same goal as our member, to keep you as healthy as possible, as long as possible. So we also have that's part of the program. But that part, in terms of socialization, people that are joining this program can take advantage of the things at the communities.
Okay, perfect. So a couple I want to I'm sort of hearing the audience's head spinning, saying, maybe I could do this. So I want to get into some of these details.
Mm-hmm.
First off, it has to be attached to a brick and mortar CCRC.
Technically, it depends on what state. Every state has different regulations. In New Jersey, it has to be attached to a bricks and mortar, which is what we are in Spring Point. I would say that 99% of the programs that are currently active, of which there are just a little under 40 around the country, are connected with a bricks and mortar. But again, the regulations have surprisingly been different in every state. It's been challenging. We actually have a consulting arm of Spring Point that has helped many of the existing programs around the country start. They're all blueprinted, very, very similar to the original. But we've had to go through a number of things within each state for regulations. For instance, New York State has been wanting to do this for 10 years, well, more than that now, 12 years, and they're still kind of wrestling with it. Maryland has had its challenges, to put it mildly, but although they have finally approved that. Then there are other states that, like North Carolina, we have theirs, in Florida, in Michigan, in Connecticut. So, but it's still, for a program that's been around since 1998, well, actually before that was Friends Life Care that started just before us, it still hasn't caught on. And I'm maybe you can tell, I'm very passionate about this program and about the senior living industry, because my original introduction into this industry was with a life plan community. I was the marketing director at a life plan community. I was there for 7 years, loved it, and it was one of Spring Point's beautiful communities. And it was great, but I had this bubble over my head. I was like, you know what? All these people are coming in and say, oh, I love this community, it's really beautiful, but I really would like to stay in my home. And I had this bubble saying, I'd like to work for that company that's, keeping people in their home. And so here I am.
That is really cool. So are there any states where you can't do it?
A lot. There are. Yeah.
Like
California wants to do it. California can't do it. There are so many senior living organizations out there that have contacted us and said, can we please get this going? And you got to talk to your legislatures. So, it's kind of, it's interesting.
Yeah, we have lots of that here in California. We also can't do freestanding emergency rooms, which you can do in a lot of other states. We can't do hospital at home. We can't do hospital at home here that they can do in other states. So it's for a progressive state. It's really frustrating as to how many ways we're really backwards. So
I was surprised when I heard about California. From years ago.
Yeah. So how do you, I guess the question I have is, I mean, so you got 300 plus,
members.
So, I mean, that in some sense, it's not a huge number for 2 states.
No.
How do you go about educate? I mean, I don't want to say selling because it sort of sounds crass, right? But maybe selling is the right word. I mean, how do you go about telling the story about how beneficial it is and why this is a worthwhile thing?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I will say education, and that is the biggest and hardest nut to get through, because it is not a known quantity. People can't understand it, and when they say, "Do you mean really?" and when like that little scenario I gave, they go, "Really? If I moved, I'd only be paying this amount," and so it's for all of the programs. And fortunately, Leading Age has been a major supporter of this program now. They realize that this is the future, and the necessary future for senior living, because we're not addressing all of the age-appropriate people that they're not all going to be moving into a retirement community. So educating people about this is still mainly done the old-fashioned way of direct mail. And having seminars and luncheons and things like that to kind of explain this. We have webinars, as do many of the programs around the country. We're very fortunate to have an article a number of years ago in the New York Times Old Age blog. Paula Spahn had written this article that just nailed it. It was like fabulous. So I got to call her and see if she can write another article, because it's that was 4 years, almost 5 years ago now. Yeah. But it's really hard to encapsulate this. It's a tough elevator speech, because there are so many different aspects to it, and it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Well, so a couple thoughts about this. I mean, to me, although this is probably really tough for your sales people in your brick and mortar CCRC, it would seem like it would be the perfect answer to everybody who comes in and says, "This is really cool, but I'm not quite ready." Because I know it sounds a little weird to say, right? But then if you get sick, you've gotten CCRC, brick and mortar CCRC on the cheap.
Thank you, Steve, for leading me directly into one of the advantages of this program, which most of the programs have it. It's called a bridge program. And this is working out incredibly well. Let me just give you an ounce of history, though. When we first were down in went down to Delaware, I think the marketing director there had like a gun to my head, because they figured I was going to take all of their leads away.
Right.
Yeah. And this is not in competition. And that's what a lot of boards also think, or any senior living organizations. It works. Right now, we're very fortunate in some of our Spring Point communities in independent living to have 100% occupancy. So let me think, what a great idea. Let's have them sign up for Spring Point Choice. And if and when they want to move into the community, into independent living, there you go. So it's an actual, it's a real advantage.
And so does the fee, the entrance fee, the membership fee transfer over if you move to bricks and mortar?
It can be two ways. You can either apply that initial entry fee that you paid to the entry fee at the community, or keep your program. Sorry. Yeah.
So so what's it take? So the other thing I wanted to say about this is that it sounds a lot like it has a lot of similarities with a PACE program. So do you guys have a PACE program too? Do you see, I mean, PACE is really not geared for the same population, of course, because
Exactly.
There are people who basically have no financial resources at all. But it sounds like there's a lot of crossover in services. And I don't know whether you guys have played with, is there intersection there?
It kind of mirrors similar to a PACE program. We do not have a PACE program. This obviously is not, the financial investment that is necessary is for a much higher income.
Right, of course.
Individual.
Yeah.
But some of the services are similar. But I think this is even more comprehensive and much more cued into a one-on-one relationship, because the real cornerstone of this whole program is that individual, that care navigator, that helps you from day one. I mean, just gets to know you from day one, and that speaks volumes. That really does.
And how many members can a single care navigator?
Great question. We average around 75 to 1 care navigator. Now, sometimes when I say that in a seminar, they go, "Oh my God, that's a lot." Well, they don't need care. If they needed care right now, the underwriting was bad, and that's the big thing about this program is the medical underwriting. We got to make sure that those people that are joining aren't going to, need services soon. Actuarially speaking, and I could say that word without. Okay, we're looking at about 5 years of not using any services. We have a client that was one of our longest term clients. She's been a member for, let me think, I think it's 23 years. And she's 101, and she just started using services.
Really? That's terrific.
We love her.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. So do you have your own staff, or do you share staff with the Spring Point CCRCs? They use Lifetime Community, I assume, rather than CCRC?
We are our own program under the umbrella of Spring Point. We are a company in itself. I have 4 care navigators. I have a director of marketing and sales, and I have a director of the program in all of New Jersey, as well as a business manager and a marketing assistant. So they're all under Spring Point Choice. The individuals that we get coming into the home, we credential home care agencies. So for instance, we have about 5 or 6 home care agencies in the state of New Jersey, some of whom we've worked with for years, that know us. We know their caregivers. They give us a good rate. We get a good rate from them. Also in Delaware, we have 3 or 4 home care agencies that we job out to, so we subcontract for that. But I have 8-9 people in my actual firm.
So I actually, I'll do the rest of this when we get off air. But I actually have somebody I want to introduce you to that might make your they're a new partner with us called Caring on Demand, and they'd be worthwhile for you to talk to about your services in with respect to that. So, how much does it cost, and how long does it take to get one of these set up?
Well, like I said, the range, because some people that already have long-term care insurance also sign up. So their initial membership fee could be lower. So we have people who have signed up that only paid $20,000 up front and $300 a month. And then if somebody's a little older and they're going for their 100%, we're talking $90,000 to $100,000 upfront fee, and then probably $600 a month. But I must say, we had this one instance.
Hold. I actually asked you the wrong question. I didn't ask my question. If I'm an operator and I want to start a program.
Oh, okay.
How much and how long?
Okay, how much and how long? The investment is probably around a little under $1 million, if you're going to be doing it right. It's a lot less than a bricks and mortar.
It is a lot less. It's still a big chunk of money, though.
Yeah. And you can you almost become cash positive from your first member on, because you're getting cash in right away. But I would say about 3 to 4 years before you can, it depends on how many you're getting. You're usually looking at about 12 to 15 the first year of membership, because it takes a while. Again, it's back to that education and people understanding this program. And then from that point on, you're talking about around 25 per year. We've had some years where I had 38. We've had some years where I only had 21. It really changes. But it's a very minimal investment for what your long-term goal and cash can be.
Okay. So, and it took you what? So if you have I guess even if you had 15 in the first year, you're probably not quite at break even, but you're pretty close, right?
You're getting there, yes.
Yeah, because you've come close to covering. I guess it depends on how you amortize your membership fee,
Right.
initial membership fee,
Right.
and account for that. But that's pretty compelling.
It is. It is.
And then, do you guys reinsure in case somebody needs 24/7?
No, we don't, and there's been discussion about that, but we do not. I think there are some programs that I know have a lifetime cap, like maybe $800 or $1 million or something to that nature, but we do not do a reinsurance.
Okay. And you guys will help people do this.
Yes, we also help people do this. And one other thing I'd like to mention too that I think is really important. Every time I've spoken at Leading Age and international here and there, and it's always kind of, again, that learning process. But the opportunity for expanding your numbers and your mission in your company and your senior living organization is amazing. And the diversity within this program is far beyond what the typical life plan community has. I would say I have about 30% of either LGBTQ, Asian, Black, so it's very diversified as well. So those are areas I know that senior living is always trying to attract. And this is another nice stepping stone for the more diverse populations that may eventually want to move in to the independent living, so it's a good mesh.
Well, the other thing you talked about, the pricing being different if you have long-term care, if somebody has long-term care insurance, but really what you're talking about is, I know you don't call it insurance, but it's really almost an equivalent product to a long-term care policy, right?
Right. And I think when people get their long-term care insurance, they don't realize, first of all, what the cost of long-term care is. And second of all, some of the caveats within each of their long-term care policies. We have somebody that's just applied, and they have a 180-day elimination period.
Yeah.
So that's a hell of a long time. That's a really long time for them to not have any coverage. And our program fills all of that in. And then some people say, well, I have, my long-term care policy says I have a care coordinator. And I said, have you met them? Have they come to your house? Do they know the name of your dog? Do they know where you went on vacation last year? No. They will only get in touch with you when you're about on the way to the hospital, and then maybe you might need some services coming home. So, and also, it's that two activities of daily living. We had a member that had long-term care insurance, and he started getting Alzheimer's. He was still living in his home, wanted to stay in his home. We contacted the long-term care insurance. They came in and said, "Oh, he's fine. He plays the piano. He's terrific." For 2 years, they would not cover him. So.
Yeah, well, my sense is that for assisted living, that long-term care policies are more often than not useless, and so it's a huge difference. And I know my dad and his wife had a long-term care policy that I think 3 times the carrier came back and said, "Don't know what to tell you, but we're going to raise our contract says this, but we're about to go out of business, so we're either going to raise your rates or cut your benefits." And at some point in time, they actually decided, he was in his 90s, and he decided, probably not going to need it that long anyway, and so they canceled it.
Okay. Yeah.
And so this sounds like, I don't know, but maybe you should be talking to insurance bro. Maybe you already do this, but maybe you should be using.
They hate us. They don't want us because they want to cut the action.
Well, you got to figure out how to compensate them for it, but it would seem like they'd be like,
small margin.
Yeah. Well, you're paying salespeople, so anyway. So let's make sure we know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
we've got, I think Jada's got, so LinkedIn's probably, since everybody's on LinkedIn and we're broadcasting on LinkedIn, that's probably the easiest way to find her. But they can help you do this. I just, if anything, after having this conversation, I'm more enthusiastic about what you're doing than I was coming into it. As Connie said, this is genius. It is these are the kinds of innovations that we need. And then the last thing is that I'm going to sort of plead, and maybe you're already doing this because you're not in my marketplace, we're across the country, is we need to be telling stories about people whose lives have been transformed. So you started to tell me the story about the 101-year-old. We need to be telling those stories out there because people are going to go say, oh yeah, that's like me. That could change my life. Yeah. And that's really what we need to be talking about, is how we're transforming lives.
I agree.
So anyway, is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't?
How you get an application if you'd like to apply.
If you'd like to apply, that's a good question.
No, you asked a lot of good questions. Yes, yes. Massachusetts, yes.
Yeah, so you can do it in Massachusetts?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So there you go. There.
Let me know.
Reach out to is it Cecily? I did it wrong, right?
All right, Cecily. It's been,
Okay, Cecily. There we go. And she'll get you figured out. Cecily, thank you so much. How do you apply?
Pardon?
How do you apply?
You just contact me and I send you an application.
And how long does it take to get approved?
The only thing that takes a long term is the medical records that our medical director reviews.
Okay, and do you do both the medical records and a physical exam?
We don't do a physical exam. We just get the medical records from about 5 years. Then we have the CARE navigator go out to the home, do your basic MOCA, ADLs, all the other basic depression scale testing. Look at the house, make sure it's appropriate for aging in place. Obviously a financial review, and then we all get together that have all been involved and make the decision whether or not they're accepted.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I appreciate your willingness to share these things that make it better. And with that, we will see you all next week. Have a great weekend. If you're at Asha in Florida next week, I'd love to connect with you and have a conversation and maybe take a selfie, or you've got a great story you can tell me.